The sterile confines of my primary research lab hummed with controlled power. Within its sleek, minimalist design, every surface of polished obsidian reflected the cold, precise glow of holographic schematics and shimmering energy readouts. Here, in the heart of my mountain redoubt, my first true experiments with Key had begun. My objective was clear: to replicate the fundamental energetic principles that had underpinned the Great Lie, to understand how a vast psychic overlay could draw, form, and filter the boundless key of the planar world. My initial efforts were not for overt power, but for concealment and defense. The creation of localized energetic shields and cloaking fields, essential for my continued unseen existence. My consciousness, now finely attuned by Nadine's adapted sensory inputs, perceived the key not merely as energy, but as a vast living tapestry. It permeated everything: the stone of the mountain, the thin, cold air, the very light that streamed through my very fortified viewport. It was a constant underlying hum, a pervasive song of harmony that, to an untrained mind, would have been profoundly overwhelming. To me, it was a torrent of data, a ceaseless influx of information that threatened to inundate my internal processors, to dissolve the very boundaries of my precise intellect into chaotic resonance. This was the true test of my sanity, a relentless psychological siege. The pressure of the planar world's raw key was a constant, insidious force, always seeking to equalize, to reharmonize any deviation. I fought it with every fiber of my being, with a mental discipline that transcended anything I had required in the mainland. My mind was a citadel, its walls reinforced by decades of absolute self-control, by the very precision that defined my existence. I compartmentalized, filtered, and analyzed the torrent, transforming potential madness into pure understanding. I allowed select channels of Key to flow through specific neurological pathways, guiding and refining its chaotic nature, bending it to the service of my will. It was agony and ecstasy, a battle for every neuron, and I was winning. My demigod precision was not just about control over others, but absolute unwavering mastery over myself. My first attempts at key manipulation were small scale, meticulously contained with shimmering force fields. I sought to weave the key into patterns that would deflect or absorb other key signatures, rendering my stronghold utterly undetectable to any conventional planar senses. Imagine the Great Lie as a massive, planet-spanning filter. My task was to miniature that filter, to turn it into a cloak. I directed streams of raw key into conduits, attempting to force it into specific harmonic patterns, then disrupt them, creating a localized void in the planetary hum. Each successful modulation was a tiny victory, a testament to the fact that Key, though vast, was not beyond the reach of a truly focused, unyielding will. Yet, even my meticulous efforts created ripples, distant, almost imperceptible disturbances, like a single discordant note in a vast silent symphony. My amplified sensors, tuned to the most minute fluctuations, registered these echoes. The residual dissonance from the mainland's final collapse, the violent rupture of the overlapping veil, lingered. My powerful, focused key probes, launched to understand the surrounding environment, sent out minute, unharmonious signals. It was like shouting into a perfectly quiet room. Even a whisper would eventually carry. Far beyond my mountainous redoubt, in the tranquil heart of the planar world, there existed entities attuned to these subtle resonances. They were not individuals in the terrestrial sense, but a collective, an ancient consciousness deeply interwoven with the planet's key. The Syndicate of Weavers. Their purpose, instilled by Arden himself, was to maintain the delicate balance of the planetary harmony, to subtly mend the energetic tears that occasionally manifested in the boundless key weave. They perceived my actions not as a direct assault, but as a subtle discord, an anomalous hum in the planetary song. Their initial response was curiosity, not alarm. They registered the disturbances as localized energetic anomalies, perhaps residual phantom pain from the great unveiling, a lingering reverberation of the illusion's brutal end. They sent out soft, almost unconscious probes, tendrils of key-attuned awareness, like a gentle breeze testing a newly formed ripple over a vast lake. They sought to understand, to reharmonize, to integrate. They had no conception of a single malevolent will at work, merely a systemic aberration. But I sensed them. My newly refined key perception, honed by the constant battle for my own sanity, was now capable of detecting these subtle probes. They were not direct scans, not targeted attacks, but a pervasive, searching presence, like a blind hand feeling its way through a dark room. I recognized their pattern, the faint, probing resonance in the ambient key. It confirmed my paranoia, my isolation, my physical was not truly unobserved. Arden knew, and now others were being nudged to investigate. I intensified my experiments. If they could sense a ripple, I would create a void. If they could detect a hum, I would generate a silence. My goal was absolute concealment, a null field of dissonance that would render my fortress invisible to any form of key-based detection. I pushed the Project Chimera scientists further, demanding breakthroughs in key resonance manipulation and adaptive cloaking fields that can mimic the natural key signatures of the barren mountain range, or even the subtle energies of the planar world's desolate regions. My precision was paramount. Every calculation was exact. Every energy transfer meticulously controlled. I could not afford error. The constant hum of the planar world's key was my tormentor and my teacher. It pressed in, urging me towards a placid, thoughtless harmony, but I resisted, my mind a crucible of defiance. Ardent, silent gaze, I knew, was always there. A pervasive presence, like the very air I breathed. He watched my every move, every subtle disturbance I created. He expected me to shatter, to succumb to the overwhelming harmony, but he underestimated the depth of my resolve, the cold, unyielding precision of my will. I would not shatter, I would reforge. The whispers in the key continued, a soft, probing resonance that surrounded my remote redoubt. I felt their growing proximity, the increased frequency of their distant, searching probes. They were not yet a threat, but an indication. The game had truly begun to draw attention. My solitude, while maintained, was no longer truly unobserved. It was a challenge, and Malachi, the architect of Dissonance, was ready to meet it. My mind, sharp as a diamond, remained unyielding, fueled by the ambition that surpassed all others.